Greetings Warhammer enthusiast. Before you stands a voice assistant of the podcast, dedicated to spreading the greater good. If you find this information useful, please do not hesitate to leave a like and subscribe. Together, we shall explore the depths of the Warhammer universe and share in its wonders. You can find the enthralling previous chapter of this epic tale by following the hint in the upper corner of your screen. In this captivating video, you will delve into the thrilling history of three formidable Tyranid Hive Fleets, Ouroboros, Behemoth, and Naga. Embark on an unforgettable journey as we explore the origins, battles, and lasting legacies of these terrifying forces that have shaped the Warhammer 40k universe.
Hive Fleet Ouroboros is one of the most ancient and enigmatic Tyranid Hive Fleets, known for its adaptation to strategies and biological weaknesses that have proven effective against other Tyranid Hive fleets. Miriamulus the Elder, then Cardinal of Thracian Primaries, recorded the history of the Legion of Ouroboros, which attacked the Helican sector in an earlier age. This legion was described as being comprised of winged monsters that descended from the heavens, emerging from the bellies of great beasts to strip the countryside of life. The Emperor himself is said to have led a crusade against these creatures, culminating in a 12-day-long battle over a warp rift close to the Eye of Terror. A subsequent analysis of the warlord Titan Mechanica Cranus, a veteran of the Ouroboros Wars, revealed bioplasma scarring and pyroacid burns consistent with Tyranid bioweaponry. It has also been suggested that the Space Wolves possess trophies similar to Tyranid life forms, such as the so-called Kraken's Egg, which date back to this era. Augur dating techniques indicate that the Titan's damage was sustained post-heresy, casting doubt on the Emperor's supposed involvement in the Ouroboros Wars. The Imperium's first modern encounter with Hive Fleet Ouroboros occurred when it devoured a chain of populated worlds along the border of the Thracian sector. Lacking any records of this Hive Fleet, the Imperium designated the new threat as Ouroboros, a name taken from the ancient records provided by Miriamulus. While it is impossible to conclusively link the two, recent encounters with Ouroboros have revealed disturbing similarities to the old legends. Hive Fleet Ouroboros is known for its preference for massed aerial assaults, filling the skies with gargoyles and harpies to the point where those below must fight in near darkness. These tales of winged horrors align with Ouroboros's typical predatory behavior, as it strikes swiftly and targets areas of strategic value with unerring accuracy. However, one of the most unsettling aspects of this Hive Fleet is its unusual, primordial biology. Encounters with Ouroboros have shown that the organisms it spawns contain cruder, more primitive versions of standard Tyranid bioweapons and organs. Regrettably, these bizarre mutations render many weapons and tactics designed to counter the Tyranid threat largely ineffective against Ouroboros. Even anti-Tyranid chemicals have proven useless against this particular Hive Fleet. Ouroboros's bioweapons also emit a soft, lambent glow, creating a disconcerting haze of witchlight that envelops its hosts during battle. This has led to the creation of specialized ammunition, such as the Hellfire round used by Adeptus Astartes, which is designed to penetrate the tough chitin of Ouroboros's bioforms and release a payload of lethal toxins. Similarly, the Astra Militarum has developed new chemical compounds and incendiary weapons capable of countering the Hive Fleet's unique biology. Furthermore, the mysterious lambent glow emitted by Ouroboros's bioweapons has added another layer of difficulty for the Imperial forces. The eerie witchlight can be disorienting and unnerving for the troops on the ground, making it even more challenging to engage the Tyranid swarms effectively. Imperial commanders have had to employ psychological conditioning and morale-boosting measures to help their soldiers overcome the fear and confusion caused by the strange glow. In response to Ouroboros's tendency to target command posts, the Imperium has started to decentralize its command structure, creating a more flexible and resilient network of communication and coordination. This approach has made it more difficult for the Hive Fleet to cripple the Imperial forces by striking at key command centers. The Cadian 14th, known as the Swarm Crushers, had a long and storied history of battling Tyranids during the Second Tyrannic War. Their experience and reputation made them the ideal choice to confront a tendril of the ancient Hive Fleet Ouroboris that was threatening the desert world of Shukra. As the Swarm Crushers prepared for the battle ahead, morale among the Cadians was high. They were confident in their abilities and tactics, having honed their skills against other Tyranid Hive fleets. The soldiers drilled in the most efficient methods of slaying Tyranids, with a focus on exploiting the Xeno species' weaknesses and disrupting their swarm tactics. However, as the Cadian 14th engaged the first swarms of Ouroboros, it quickly became apparent that their tried-and-true tactics were not as effective as they had hoped. The pinpoint shots that should have ruptured vital organs had almost no effect on the Ouroboros bioforms, while salvos of airburst shells filled with anti-Tyranid chemicals merely provided cover for the advancing swarm. The Swarm Crushers found themselves facing an enemy that seemed immune to their carefully crafted strategies. Confidence swiftly turned to panic among the Cadian forces as they realized the ineffectiveness of their defense against Ouroboros. Despite this, the Cadian 14th was determined to make a stand and protect the world of Shukra at all costs. They refused to retreat, opting instead to sell their lives dearly in the face of the relentless Tyranid onslaught. As the battle raged on, the Cadian 14th fought valiantly, attempting to adapt their tactics and weaponry to the unique challenges posed by Hive Fleet Ouroboros. They engaged in brutal close-quarters combat, utilizing their skills in marksmanship, and even resorting to improvised explosive devices to stem the tide of the Xenos invaders. However, the overwhelming force of Ouroboros eventually wore down the Cadians' resolve. The brave soldiers of the Swarm Crushers were pushed back, and despite their best efforts, they were ultimately consumed by the Tyranid swarm. The disastrous encounter with Hive Fleet Ouroboros on Shukra served as a stark reminder for the Imperium of Man that even their most experienced and elite forces could be overcome by the constantly evolving and adapting Tyranid threat. This sobering realization reinforced the importance of developing new tactics and technologies to counter the seemingly endless array of Xenos adversaries that continued to threaten the galaxy. En route to Ultramar, a fleet of Adepta Sororitas from multiple preceptories of the Order of the Bloody Rose found themselves stopping in the Thresh system. This sudden change in their course was prompted by a vision received by Sister Assumpta, a young and untested warrior within the Order. The sisters saw this vision as a divine message and prepared themselves for war on the lifeless world within the Thresh system. With a sense of purpose and unwavering faith in their duty, the Sisters of the Bloody Rose arrayed themselves in battle formations on the barren planet. For a full day, they held their positions, while the canoness of each preceptory prayed for guidance and divine intervention. Their prayers were answered when a tendril of the ancient and fearsome Hive Fleet Ouroboros unexpectedly entered the system. The Tyranid swarm, seemingly drawn to the presence of the sisters, descended upon the planet in massive waves of bioengineered monstrosities. Undaunted, the Sisters of the Bloody Rose met the Xenos' threat head-on, engaging in fierce and bloody combat with the relentless Tyranid invaders. Swarms of skittering predators were cut down by the expert marksmanship and zealous fury of the sororitas, while squads of sisters were devoured by ravenous Tyranid creatures. Aware that the Tyranids feed off biomass to fuel their never-ending conquests, the warriors of the Bloody Rose made a conscious effort to burn every corpse, both human and Xenos, to ashes. This act of self-sacrifice and determination aimed to deny the Tyranids the vital resources they needed to replenish their numbers. The conflict raged on for 6 grueling months, with the Sisters holding the line against the seemingly endless tide of Tyranids. Finally, after half a year of brutal warfare, the influx of Tyranid reinforcements into the system ceased. The Sisters, exhausted but resolute, continued to hunt down and exterminate the remaining Xenos creatures for an additional 6 months. In the end, Sister Assumpta, the one whose vision had brought the Sororitas to the Thresh system in the first place, was the sole survivor of the battle. Her survival was seen as a testament to both her faith and the divine protection of the God Emperor. The Order of the Bloody Rose had made an incredible stand against the nightmarish Hive Fleet Ouroboris, demonstrating the unwavering faith and indomitable spirit of the Adepta Sororitas in the face of overwhelming odds. At present, Hive Fleet Ouroboris is embroiled in a fierce conflict with an Eldar-led coalition of Xenos races in the Laevenir Archipelago. This archipelago, a collection of star systems with numerous planets and celestial bodies, has become the focal point of a desperate struggle between the ancient Hive Fleet and the fragile alliance of Xenos species determined to halt the Tyranid advance. When the Tyranids consumed one of the archipelago's systems, the craft world Kinshara sent out a call for aid to their kin. The loss of a system was a terrible blow to the Eldar, as it represented an irreplaceable resource. Moreover, the situation was made even more dire by the presence of the elusive race known as those who evade the Crone within the system. These beings possessed the unique ability to manipulate time, making them difficult to track, even for the Eldar Farseers. The potential incorporation of their DNA into the Tyranid swarm could lead to devastating new evolutions for the Xenos. In response to Kinshara's plea, a substantial Eldar war host was assembled in the Athena system. This force included war hosts from 6 craft worlds, a number of Harlequin masks, several Corsair fleets, and even detachments of Inari. However, tensions quickly arose within the ranks. The Mask of the Frozen Stars refused to fight alongside the Inari, while many distrusted the Eldar of Altanzar due to their time spent in the warp. Additionally, the Corsair fleets were met with skepticism. These tensions were further exacerbated by the Tyranid's shadow in the warp. Ultimately, the authority of Biel-Tan and Siamhan managed to maintain a semblance of cohesion among the Eldar forces. Still, discontent led to the departure of half the Harlequins and the entire Inari contingent from the war zone. With their remaining forces, the Eldar sprang into action. They dispatched strike teams to the Jalarian, Ilsen, and Phethala systems to cleanse them of the Tyranid presence. Agile Corsair destroyers and cruisers engaged Tyranid bioships in space, while striking Scorpions and Rangers hunted down the Tyranid creatures on the ground. Harlequins faced off against Genestealer broods in swift and deadly duels. A council of Farseers determined that the bulk of the Eldar forces should head to Orloth, the next system in the Tyranids' path of destruction. The native aliens of Orloth were already embroiled in a catastrophic war amongst themselves, making them extremely vulnerable to the Tyranids. Utilizing the webway, the Eldar quickly arrived on Orloth, where they recognized that they could not unite Laevenir's diverse races against the invaders, nor could they abandon the beleaguered world. A grueling and costly war lay ahead for the Eldar as they prepared to face the relentless advance of Hive Fleet Ouroboris. The first documented attack by Hive Fleet Behemoth occurred at the Adeptus Mechanicus Explorator base on the outpost world of Tyran. The Tyranids launched a devastating assault on the outpost, quickly overwhelming its defenses with their superior numbers and relentless aggression. The entire world was stripped of all life by the Tyranids, who consumed the planet's biomass to fuel their insatiable hunger. Deep beneath the command bunker of the Explorator base, a data codex containing a detailed record of the invasion was securely stored. Almost a year later, Inquisitor Cryptman, a visionary member of the Imperial Inquisition, was dispatched to investigate the reports of unexplained dead worlds that had been discovered in the region. Upon recovering the data codex from Tyran, Cryptman analyzed its contents and realized the grave threat posed by the Tyranids as they entered the galaxy. Determined to warn the Imperium of Man about this new and terrifying enemy, Cryptman took it upon himself to spread the word of the imminent danger. As this was the first time the Imperium had encountered this alien race, they named the Tyranids after the planet Tyran, where the first attack had occurred. The shocking speed and brutality of the Tyranid invasion served as a wake-up call to the Imperium, highlighting the need for greater vigilance and preparedness in the face of an ever-evolving and insatiable foe. In the years that followed, the Imperium would come to understand the true scale of the Tyranid threat. The relentless nature of their invasions, coupled with their ability to adapt and evolve at an alarming rate, made them one of the most dangerous adversaries the galaxy had ever seen. Inquisitor Cryptman's tireless efforts to warn the Imperium and rally its forces against the Tyranids would play a crucial role in the ongoing struggle to defend humanity from this seemingly unstoppable menace. Jaga, a world in the outer reaches of the galaxy, was home to a notorious group of orc freebooters called the Starcrumpers. These fearsome orcs were known for their extensive fleet of kill cruisers, which posed a significant threat to local shipping lanes and neighboring systems. The Starcrumpers had gained a reputation for their aggressive and daring raids, striking fear into the hearts of those who crossed their path. When Hive Fleet Behemoth arrived in the vicinity of Jaga, the Starcrumpers found themselves facing a foe unlike any they had encountered before. Undeterred by the seemingly insurmountable odds, the orc freebooters rallied their kill cruiser fleet and prepared for a pitched battle against the Tyranid invaders. As the conflict between the Starcrumpers and Hive Fleet Behemoth unfolded, the orcs put up a fierce and determined resistance. Their kill cruisers engaged the Tyranid bioships in a series of brutal and chaotic skirmishes, with both sides sustaining heavy losses. The Starcrumpers, true to their reputation, fought tenaciously and with unrelenting ferocity, giving the Tyranids a run for their money. Despite their best efforts and the impressive display of orc firepower, the Starcrumpers were eventually overwhelmed by the sheer number and adaptability of the Tyranids. One by one, their kill cruisers were destroyed, succumbing to the relentless onslaught of the Hive Fleet Behemoth. The once feared Starcrumpers met their end, their fleet reduced to smoldering wreckage among the stars. Solomace, a mysterious and foreboding Necron tomb world, found itself in the path of two minor tendrils of the Tyranid Hive Fleet. The Tyranids, known for their relentless pursuit of biomass and conquest, were expected to launch a full-scale invasion of the world. However, a surprising turn of events unfolded as the two tendrils made major course corrections to avoid conflict with the ancient and enigmatic Necrons. This unusual behavior demonstrated that even the seemingly unstoppable Tyranids recognized the potential threat posed by the Necrons and their advanced technology. Instead of engaging in a costly and potentially devastating battle, the Tyranids opted for a more cautious approach, seeking easier targets to ensure their continued growth and expansion. As the tendrils steered clear of Solomace, they found themselves struggling to locate suitable prey worlds rich in biomass. Unable to pinpoint such worlds and with their energy reserves dwindling, the tendrils eventually lapsed into a state of hibernation. This dormancy period allowed the Tyranids to conserve energy and resources until more favorable conditions for their resurgence presented themselves. The encounter between the Tyranids and the Necron tomb world of Solomase offers a fascinating insight into the strategic decision-making of the Tyranid hive mind. It highlights the fact that even the most fearsome and aggressive species in the galaxy can exhibit caution and self-preservation instincts when faced with a formidable opponent. Additionally, it serves as a reminder of the enigmatic and potent power that the Necrons possess, a power that even the Tyranids are not eager to confront head-on. Prandium, often referred to as the jewel in Ultramar's crown, was a lush and prosperous agri-world within the realm of Ultramar. Unfortunately, it became a prime target for Hive Fleet Behemoth due to its abundant resources and biomass. The conquest of Prandium by the Tyranids was swift and brutal, catching the defenders of the planet off guard. The Ultramarines, led by Chapter Master Manius Calgar, mounted a defense alongside the local Prandium Defense Auxilia under commanders such as Cyrus Falili. Despite their valiant efforts, they could not prevent the Tyranids from devouring the planet's resources. The Tyranids were so thorough in their consumption that even the atmosphere of Prandium was stripped of any biomass it contained, leaving the world lifeless and barren. In the aftermath of this devastating loss, Manius Calgar spent a week in deep meditation without food or water, contemplating the Ultramarines' failure to protect Prandium. Upon emerging from his trance-like state, Calgar shared a revelation with his battle brothers. The Ultramarines had been guilty of the sin of pride, and they needed to adapt their strategies, tactics, and even weapons to combat the Tyranid threat more effectively. Recognizing that hit-and-run raids were no longer a viable option against the relentless Tyranids, the Ultramarines shifted their focus to concentrated defenses and static firepower. This strategic shift required them to choose a location to defend, and they ultimately decided on their fortress monastery on Macragge. This decision would lead to the pivotal battle for Macragge, where the Ultramarines and the forces of the Imperium made a desperate stand against Hive Fleet Behemoth. The lessons learned from the tragic loss of Prandium would prove invaluable in their continued efforts to defend the Imperium from the Tyranid menace. As the Tyranids launched their assault on Macragge, countless waves of bio-vessels hurtled toward the planet. Despite the defenders' best efforts, more and more mycetic spores broke through the defenses and reached the surface. Calgar led the fight on the ground, seeking to slow the Tyranid onslaught and buy time for Macragge's vital polar fortresses to be further fortified. During the Battle of Cold Steel Ridge, the hive mind sent its deadliest servant, the Swarm Lord, to confront Calgar. The arrival of this unique beast imbued the Tyranids with a strategic prowess that complemented their primal ferocity. The Swarm Lord issued a challenge to Calgar and charged directly at him. Despite the efforts of the Ultramarines' honor guard, the Swarm Lord gravely wounded Calgar. Fortunately, Thunderhawk gunships arrived just in time to evacuate him to the battle barge Octavius in orbit above Macragge. With Cold Steel Ridge taken by the Tyranids, the path to the northern polar fortress was left vulnerable. Upon arriving on the Octavius, Calgar assumed command of the surviving Imperial fleet. Macragge's space defenses had been all but destroyed by the Tyranid fleet, which then broke orbit and headed toward the ringed world of Circe. Pursuing the Tyranids, Calgar and his forces discovered a second Tyranid fleet hidden among Circe's rings. Just as the situation seemed dire, reinforcements from the Tempestus fleet arrived, trapping the Tyranid fleet between them. Although the Tyranids still held numerical superiority, the tide turned when the Emperor-class battleship Dominus Ustra made a desperate charge into the heart of Hive Fleet Behemoth. It detonated its warp drives, creating a cataclysmic vortex that annihilated both the Dominus Ustra and the entire Tyranid fleet. With the Tyranid fleet destroyed, Calgar's forces hastily returned to Macragge, where all contact had been lost with the polar fortresses. The third company landed at the northern fortress and pushed into the subterranean tunnels, only to find them strewn with the bodies of Tyranids and Ultramarines alike. Deep within the lower Penetorium, they discovered a circle of fallen Terminators who had fought back-to-back in their final stand. The entire first company of the Ultramarines had been slain to the last man while defending Macragge. Although the threat of Hive Fleet Behemoth had been eliminated, the Hive Mind had gained valuable experience and absorbed a significant amount of new biomass. It would take years for the Ultramarines and Ultramar to recover from their losses and to fully rid Macragge of the Tyranid presence. Following the Battle of Macragge, the Hive Fleet fragmented into smaller splinters that dispersed in all directions. These splinters, given time and sufficient biomass, had the potential to grow into new, large Hive Fleets. One fragment of Hive Fleet Behemoth found its way into the Mechanicum-held Dorgal Helix. There, the Mechanicus utilized knowledge from the Tyran data codex to equip their Skitarii warriors for battle against the Tyranids. Koa Commander Alpha 9 THYRRC turned the tide by saturating a layer of the atmosphere with gas from the planet's Prometheum refineries. When his Onager's neutron laser ignited the sky, incoming waves of Tyranid spores were set ablaze, incinerating the Xenos on the planet's surface instead of reinforcing them. Unfortunately, this tactic was recorded in a data codex, returned to the forged world of Akatron, and subsequently forgotten. In another instance, the Adeptus Mechanicus used the remains and captured Tyranids from Hive Fleet Behemoth to launch the Anphelion Project, a covert operation that studied the alien life forms. The project ended in disaster when the Tyranids broke free, ambushing and decimating an Imperial task force sent to investigate the situation. Hive Fleet Naga's first major attack on the galaxy occurred when it descended upon the Eulymethic League. This unsuspecting collection of planets, comprising numerous civilizations and species, found itself in the path of a terrifying and ravenous force. Within a matter of days, Naga had obliterated the League's 4 outer colonies, leaving nothing but devastation in its wake. As the Tyranids consumed these colonies, they also infiltrated the few refugee freighters that managed to escape the carnage. Genestealers, an insidious vanguard organism of the Tyranids, stowed away on these vessels, biding their time until they reached their next destination. Upon the freighter's arrival at the Varayan space docks, the Genestealers struck, quickly and ruthlessly seizing control of the complex. Within just 2 days, all contact with the facility was lost as the Genestealers systematically eliminated any resistance. In a desperate bid to contain the Genestealer infestation, a fleet from the Varayan planet was dispatched to destroy the entire facility from orbit. The resulting explosions and wreckage rained down upon the planet, a grim testament to the sacrifices made in the name of survival. However, this action had unintended consequences, as it severely crippled the Varayans' ability to rearm and refit any additional spacecraft in the region. This loss of infrastructure would have lasting repercussions, leaving the Varayans and their allies vulnerable to further Tyranid incursions. For the next 5 years, Hive Fleet Naga turned its attention to the consumption of several minor alien races on the edge of Eulymethic space. These civilizations, many of them already weakened by previous conflicts, found themselves easy prey for the relentless Tyranids. With each new conquest, Naga's forces grew stronger and more diverse, incorporating the unique genetic traits of its victims into its ever-evolving ranks. Naga returned to the Eulymethic League with renewed vigor, intent on finishing what it had started. The Hive Fleet quickly set its sights on the League's throne world, a crucial center of governance and military power. The desperate defenders put up a fierce resistance, but ultimately succumbed to the overwhelming Tyranid onslaught. With the throne world absorbed, the the remaining colonies of the Unravel League had no choice but to declare a full quarantine, in the hope that this would prevent Naga from discovering their locations. In the face of such a seemingly unstoppable foe, the inhabitants of the Unravel League and neighboring systems were forced to confront the brutal reality of the Tyranid threat. This implacable force of nature would not be deterred, and the galaxy would have to adapt or face annihilation at the hands of the Great Devourer. As the Unravel League and its allies scrambled to recover from the devastation wrought by Hive Fleet Naga, they faced a daunting task. Their fleets were crippled, their defenses weakened, and their populations decimated. With every passing day, the Tyranids continued to grow in strength, consuming world after world as they inexorably advanced. The survivors of Naga's onslaught knew that their only hope for survival lay in uniting with other beleaguered civilizations, sharing knowledge and resources in an attempt to mount a coordinated defense against the Tyranid menace. Hive Fleet Naga's invasion of the galaxy initially targeted areas with minimal Imperial presence, leading the Administratum to mistakenly believe that it was merely a splintered tendril of Hive Fleet Behemoth on the verge of dying off from starvation. It wasn't until 2 centuries later, with the emergence of Hive Fleet Kraken, that it became clear that other Tyranid hive fleets were poised to enter the galaxy. The Ouroboros cluster, a densely populated region of imperial worlds located beyond the eastern fringe of the Vidor sector, found itself in Naga's path. These planets had been isolated for centuries due to persistent warp storms, which eventually subsided, revealing worlds devoid of life and Hive Fleet Naga mysteriously absent. As Naga continued its relentless assault on the Unravel League, rumors of an approaching alien threat reached the Ouroboros cluster. In response, a cult known as the Cult of Veiled Oblivion rapidly gained membership across the cluster, sowing discord and fear among the population. Naga invaded the world of Crimson Fall, prompting the neighboring planet of Tyran to send reinforcements, including a company of neglected but operational Cadian Baneblades. The Imperial defenders on Crimson Fall rallied behind these powerful tanks, believing them to be their salvation. However, their hope was short-lived, as a brood of Tyrannofexes quickly reduced the Baneblades to scrap. With their heavy firepower neutralized, the defenders were left exposed and vulnerable to the relentless Tyranid advance. Further reinforcements dispatched from Tyran found themselves ambushed en route by Dark Eldar raiders. The unsuspecting Dark Eldar, in turn, were caught off guard by Naga's swift advance and were swiftly destroyed. Meanwhile, on the coremost world of Silax, the Cult of Veiled Oblivion had gained significant influence, plunging the planet into anarchy. Silax refused to send aid to Crimson Fall, leaving the besieged world to fend for itself. Hive Fleet Naga had devoured Crimson Fall and continued its inexorable advance towards Tyran. Having sent a significant portion of its forces to aid Crimson Fall, Tyran was ill-prepared to face the Tyranid onslaught and was easily overcome. Naga arrived over Silax, where the planet's population, including the planetary governor, revealed their true allegiance to the Cult of Veiled Oblivion and took up arms against the loyal defense forces. As the cultists and loyalists clashed in a brutal civil war, Naga descended upon the planet, devouring both sides with indiscriminate ferocity. The tragic fate of Silax serves as a stark reminder of the insidious influence of the Tyranids, and their ability to sow chaos and discord among their prey. Throughout the following years, Hive Fleet Naga continued its relentless campaign of destruction and consumption across the galaxy. With each new conquest, the Hive Fleet grew stronger and more diverse, incorporating the genetic traits of its victims into its ever-evolving ranks. Despite facing numerous challenges and setbacks, the beleaguered defenders of the galaxy were forced to adapt and develop new strategies to counter the Tyranid menace. The tragic events of the Ibaric Cluster and the Eulimethic League would serve as a cautionary tale for the galaxy at large. The Tyranid threat could not be underestimated or ignored, and the inhabitants of the galaxy would have to unite in their efforts to stave off annihilation at the hands of the Great Devourer. The first encounter between the Tyranids and the Eldar took place when Naga unexpectedly attacked and devoured the exodite world of Tyranid. The planet's death throes unleashed a psychic shockwave that crippled the world spirits of several neighboring exodite worlds, leaving them vulnerable to Naga's relentless advance. Recognizing the growing Tyranid threat, Eldar fleets from the Malan'tai and Idari craft worlds began to coordinate efforts against Naga. These combined forces launched an attack on the Hive Fleet's leading elements. In response, Naga employed a cunning strategy, dividing its forces into two tendrils. The first tendril continued its advance towards the exodite world of Halathel, while the second turned back rimwards to target the maiden world of Ethelos. The exodites of Halathel found themselves in a dire situation, unable to abandon their kin's souls contained within the planet's world spirit. As a result, they began to fortify the world spirit shrine and desperately sought assistance from nearby craft worlds. Despite their best efforts, the first tendril of Hive Fleet Naga outpaced the crippled Malan'tai fleet, arriving at Halathel first. Naga launched a massive assault, deploying countless mycetic spores onto the beleaguered planet. Facing insurmountable odds, the defenders were forced to withdraw to the World Spirit Shrine, where they prepared to make their last stand. Thousands of termagants and hormagaunts assaulted the shrine's walls in an attempt to deplete the defenders' ammunition stores, but the resilient exodites held their ground. For 3 days and nights, they repelled wave after wave of Tyranid attackers until the onslaught temporarily ceased. However, the respite was short-lived. When the Tyranids launched their second siege of the shrine, the ferocity and sheer number of their forces dwarfed the initial assault. By nightfall, Naga had breached the outer defenses, and the Tyranids began pouring through the gaps. Exodite Lord Wayanal, recognizing the desperate situation, took a heroic stand against the Hive Tyrant leading the assault, buying precious time for the remaining Eldar forces to withdraw. In a bitter fight, both combatants were slain, with Wayanal bringing down the Hive Tyrant before being torn apart by the beast's rampaging Tyrant Guard. The death of the Synapse creature disrupted the Tyranid swarm's cohesion, forcing them to withdraw temporarily. In orbit above Halathel, a fresh fleet from Eandon, commanded by Admiral Dretch, engaged the Hive ships. Tragically, Dretch's flagship, the auspicious Illumination of Eternity, was destroyed early in the battle. Command of the fleet quickly passed to Dretch's second-in-command, the young and capable Prince Iriel, who led the Eandon fleet to a hard-fought victory. Back on the planet, the World Spirit Shrine's final moments arrived when dozens of Trigons burst from underground tunnels beneath the shrine's walls. Within an hour, the Eldar defenders were massacred, and the World Spirit was destroyed. Overwhelmed by grief and rage, Iriel gave the order to purge all life from Halathel. The survivors of the Malan'tai fleet arrived to join in the grim task of cleansing the planet. In the aftermath of the battle, the Eldar's determination to protect the World Spirit Shrine had cost them dearly. The once lush exodite world of Halathel was left a barren wasteland, its world spirit extinguished and its defenders slaughtered. This tragic loss served as a stark reminder of the relentless Tyranid threat and the heavy toll it exacted upon the galaxy's inhabitants. Despite the heavy losses suffered by the Eldar during the defense of Halathel, their tenacity and the leadership of Prince Iriel had dealt a significant blow to Hive Fleet Naga. This battle marked the beginning of Iriel's rise to prominence within the Eldar ranks, and his strategic acumen would continue to be a key factor in their ongoing struggle against the Tyranids. The combined efforts of the Malan'tai, Idari, and Eandan craft worlds, along with the invaluable support of Exodite and other Eldar forces, gradually began to turn the tide against Hive Fleet Naga. As the Eldar scored a series of hard-won victories, they developed new strategies and weapons specifically designed to counter the Tyranids' adaptive nature and relentless hunger. The lessons learned from the fall of Halathel and other worlds informed their tactics, making them more effective and efficient in combat. As the conflict raged on, the Eldar became increasingly adept at identifying and exploiting the Tyranids' weaknesses. They began to focus their attacks on the Hive Fleet's synapse creatures, disrupting the Tyranid hive mind and causing the swarms to lose cohesion. Additionally, the Eldar's mastery of the webway allowed them to strike at the heart of Naga's forces, bypassing the seemingly impenetrable defenses of the hive ships and striking at their most vulnerable points. Iriel's forces, having dealt with the first tendril, joined their Idari kin in the fight to reclaim Ethelis. Together, they systematically hunted down the leaderless Tyranid swarms, using their superior tactics and intimate knowledge of the planet's terrain to their advantage. The Battle of Sorrowforge Pinnacle saw the last Hive Tyrant fall, leaving the remaining Tyranids vulnerable and disorganized. One by one, the Eldar wiped out the remnants of Hive Fleet Naga, determined to avenge the loss of their fallen brethren and the devastation of their worlds. In total, the Eldar had lost 2 maiden worlds and 7 exodite worlds in their fight against Hive Fleet Naga. The cost of victory had been immense, but the Eldar had successfully demonstrated their resilience and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. However, before Naga was completely destroyed, a single, grievously wounded bioship stumbled upon the Malan'tai craft world. In a final act of defiance, the dying vessel unleashed its remaining mycetic spores upon the unsuspecting Eldar. The invasion went undetected until the spores reached the craft world itself, and a desperate struggle to repel the Tyranid invaders ensued. The Eldar fought valiantly to defend their home, but they were unprepared for the unique threat posed by a vampiric zoanthrope that had been unleashed upon Malan'tai. This creature, which would become known as the Doom of Malan'tai, wrought havoc among the Eldar defenders. Draining the very life force from its victims, the Doom of Malan'tai single-handedly decimated the entire population of the craft world, leaving it a lifeless husk. In the aftermath of the destruction of Hive Fleet Naga and the catastrophic loss of Malan'tai, the Eldar were left to reflect upon the staggering cost of their victory. Despite their successful defense of Ethelis and the elimination of the Tyranid threat, the Eldar had paid a heavy price in lives and worlds lost. Nevertheless, their perseverance and unwavering determination had served as a testament to the indomitable spirit of their race. In the years that followed, the Eldar would continue to mourn their losses and rebuild from the devastation wrought by Hive Fleet Naga. The memory of their fallen kin would live on as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made in defense of their people and their worlds. The tale of the Eldar's struggle against the Tyranids would serve as a cautionary tale for the galaxy, a story of both tragedy and triumph in the face of unimaginable adversity. As the galaxy continued to reel from the relentless advance of the Tyranids, the Eldar's victory over Hive Fleet Naga offered a glimmer of hope. Their hard-fought triumph demonstrated that, through unity, sacrifice, and sheer determination, even the most seemingly unstoppable foe could be vanquished. It was a message that resonated across the stars, inspiring others to stand against the darkness and hold fast in the face of despair.
In the upcoming segment, we'll delve into the intricate details of each Tyranid Hive fleet, revealing their unique characteristics and strategies. Don't miss out on the next thrilling chapter. Click the bell icon now to stay notified for future content.